What's going on, everybody? If you don't know, now you do know. You're officially tuned in to episode 13 of the Hfwb podcast series. I am your host, Clifton Pope, and I want to thank those who are once again watching on YouTube. Make sure y'all subscribe to the YouTube channel by searching Health, Fitness, Wealth, Business. And I want to thank those once again for everybody listening on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and now Google Podcasts. Thank you once again for providing Hfwb the opportunity to present y'all with some fresh information because, like I say all the time, information is the new money, and the more informed and educated you are, the more healthier you'll become in due time, the more your wealth will grow in due time, and most importantly, the more you'll find yourself, and the more you'll know yourself, and the more your knowledge and wisdom will grow every single day to where you can better yourself, to where you can accomplish great health and great wealth and all that good stuff. And it's crazy because I talk about achieving all those things, and sometimes we can be maybe a little bit clueless and maybe not know where to start as far as where to find all these things. And it's kind of like what I've been doing as far as within the 7 dwarfs, as far as which dwarf has their own special characteristic and what makes them their own character within themselves and everything. This week, I remember last week I talked about sleepy, if I'm not mistaken correctly. This week we're going to be talking about dopey, and the reason why I say dopey because sometimes ignorance isn't always such a bad thing, as crazy as that may sound. I'm pretty sure y'all are hearing me say this and thinking, what are you talking about? Ignorance is just horrible within itself. You should never want to be ignorant. But sometimes being ignorant can lead to greater things happening in life, to where it allows you to take on what may seem like impossible and turn it into something that is possible. Because the last time I checked, the word impossible does spell out I'm possible. And it takes someone sometimes who's very ignorant, who doesn't know any better, just to say, I'm going to take on the impossible and basically make it possible, which is something special within itself. So overall, if you don't know that something is impossible, you may succeed in doing it, as crazy as that may sound. So sometimes it's like, sometimes you got to be smart enough to know that you're stupid. As in other words, you know that you don't know everything, and you know that there is room for improvement, and you know that there's room for your mind to grow and continue to evolve and continue to take on new things as far as stuff being learned within the concepts of growing your intelligence every single day. So that's a good little way of taking on the page of dopey from the 7 dwarfs. Realize that, hey, ignorance sometimes isn't always a bad thing, and sometimes you just don't know better. I mean, I, from one, have had many moments where I've thought I didn't know any better, and I am pretty sure everybody who is listening to this, and even those who aren't listening to this, have had a moment in their life to where it's like, I just don't know any better, But sometimes remember this, and I'm going to say this one more time. If you don't know something is impossible, you may succeed in doing it. So sometimes if you feel like you don't know what you're getting yourself into, look at the impossible as kind of like a fun journey you could go on, and hey, whatever the destination may come out of it, you reached the destination at the end of the day, didn't you? So overall, you may succeed in doing something that you may seem like you don't know any better about, and that does seem impossible in the first place. And it's funny how I say some things may seem impossible to some people and everything, because one thing that I realized, and this is one of the main things that hold a lot of people back from getting their own fitness routine going, for example, they feel like, working out to them or getting healthy to them based on their genetics or whatever you may call it, or whatever is holding them back, may seem impossible. But it isn't impossible, and the reason why it's not possible, because all you really have to do, and this is just a quick little fitness tip, you just have to know the signs of an early burnout. You don't want to jump into something, and as far as when you're trying to start your own workout routine, your own diet plan, don't go too extreme. Don't get burnt out before you really get in the process of really getting burnt out. It's like, don't try to jump into the deep end when you barely know how to swim, if you know what I mean. Because it's easy to feel excited when starting a new training program, right? Because the too much, too soon effect can raise a bunch of injury risk and can tank your motivation within itself. So you don't want to get into the process to where you're excited, like, oh, I'm finna get ready to try this new exercise routine, or oh, I'm finna get ready to lose weight in 2-3 months, or oh, I'm finna put on muscle in 4 or 5 months and make myself nice, big, and strong and all this. Because doing those things within itself can lead to an early burnout, to where you're giving up 3 weeks into starting this new diet, or 3 weeks into starting this new fitness plan or weight loss program, or whatever you want to call it. Avoid the signs of early burnout, because you got to pace yourself. Because look at working out like literally running a marathon. You don't see people sprinting through a marathon. They pace themselves, and then they pick their spots on when to go all out, and then they slow themselves down back to that steady little pace that will allow them to survive the marathon. Because in my personal opinion, as much as I work out all the time, basically a workout to me is like a marathon. You got to pace yourself. You got to know when to go hard, when to take it easy. It's just a matter of just listening to your body, understanding your own body and your own fitness structure that you have within yourself, and just understanding how the mind works and training it to where instantly the body will follow. And next thing you know, you're having a nice, successful workout in the first place. So to be sure to avoid the early signs of like early burnout and all that stuff, pay attention to your fatigue level, because you may have some constant fatigue issues. You may have trouble sleeping. I could raise my hand, both of my hands on this. I am guilty for having trouble sleeping, and I know I'm not the only one who is saying this. And I'm pretty sure that I've gotten burnt out myself within working out. As a matter of fact, today was the first day that I actually lift weights for the first time in a couple of weeks. So I've been kind of slowly but surely recovering from a little bit of a burnout as far as working out. But I'm starting to light that flame once again. I'm starting to get inspired and motivated, because I'm telling myself I can't be slacking off. I need to get back on this. So I challenge y'all to do the same as far as starting your own fitness plan or your own weight loss program, increasing muscle, whatever it is that you're trying to do to establish a new life and great fitness, like I always like to say for HFWB. So be on the lookout for that. And be on the lookout as far as the early signs of a burnout, like higher than perceived effort during workouts. So it kind of goes back to what I was saying. Just pace yourself during the workout. Don't do too many reps. Don't lift too much weight that you can't handle just to try to impress yourself, or just because you're feeling good, because that could ultimately backfire on you. Trust me, I've done that numerous of times. You do not want to be a part of that. It's a very awkward, painful, and uncomfortable experience. Just simple as that. And also, you got to watch your overall health, because being sick more often than usual is another common sign of an early burnout. So overall, when it comes to putting together your fitness plan, when it comes to figuring out what cardio workout you want to do, what weight loss program you want to do, what kind of strength training you want to do, you gotta avoid this early burnout. Don't get too excited. Show a little bit of excitement and be a little bit pumped up, but most importantly, get through the workout without getting burnt out, and develop some consistency within it, to where you're having that flow going, to where you can turn this into a habit, because all it takes is 3 to 4 weeks, and next thing you know, you've been working out on a consistent basis for a month, and that could translate to a year, and next thing you know, you're adding literally more years onto your life, ironically enough. And it's funny how that works out. And it kind of goes into this little quote that I want to read you for my fitness goers out there, when I say life has no remote, so get up and change it yourself. Wake up, beauty, it's time to beast. I gotta say that one more time, because when I read this quote, it kind of caught me a little bit, because this is so true. So I'm gonna say this again. Life has no remote, so get up and change it yourself. Wake up, beauty, it's time to beast. As in other words, when it comes to wanting to change yourself and change your health and change your overall routine to establish new life with great fitness, Remember that life has no remote control. You are in control. It starts with you. It's kind of like you got to build yourself up, and you got to model whatever health plan that you choose to desire, and you got to tell yourself, this is what I want to represent, and you got to show it by actually representing it and doing it and putting your mind to it at the end of the day. So you got to start by getting up and changing yourself. And you got to tell yourself at the end of the day, when you're done working out and everything, that your body is slowly coming together, and that it's a beauty. It really is. And because it's a beauty, whenever you're in the gym or wherever you are working out, you feel like a beast, because at the same time, when you're in workout mode, it's time to beast. No excuses. You got to go hard. Put the blood, sweat, and tears into it so you can achieve the maximum results. I'm pretty sure you've heard this many a times. I'm just giving you a friendly reminder on that. And wherever it is that you work out, whether it's a gym or working out at home, there's always its benefits and its disadvantages, like I talked about on the last episode of the HFWB podcast. It's just, especially when you're working out at a gym, and when you see other people work out, it kind of inspires you to want to go harder and match their level of intensity. But at the same time, you got to realize that they may be working out at a different pace that they know that they can handle, that you have no idea what kind of level of intensity that is yet. Because in life, obviously, there's levels to everything. There's levels to fitness. You can be inspired by watching other people work out, but don't try to turn this into a competition and try to outperform them in their workout that they've probably been doing for years, that you're trying to start within the first couple of days. It's going to end up as a losing battle for the person who's the beginner versus the person who's more of an advanced expert at the end of the day. Trust me on that. You do not want to go down that path. And that's, ironically enough, a pro and a con within itself as far as working out at the gym, because those same people who you were basically competing with or being inspired by as far as trying to get a good workout on at the gym, they're the same people who can distract you, who can hold up all the space, who could always be on their phones recording their little videos and talking to people on the phone or talking to people in between sets. That could be a little bit of a distraction and throw off your workout game at the end of the day. So overall, stay the course, remain focused on your plan, your weight loss program, your strength training program, add on the muscle, increase your muscle to build your hustle, like I always say all the time, courtesy of HFWB, and you will achieve the maximum results on that. Please remember that, and you will definitely do it for sure. Now, of course, like I mentioned last week's episode of the HFWB podcast, there's also pros and cons to working out at home as well. And here's another one as far as working out at home. You do it at your own time. You do it at your own pace. Hell, if you want, you could even work out in your pajamas and do some push-ups and sit-ups for all I care. Do it at your own time and utilize your time wisely if you choose to work out at home. That's something that I do all the time. I always make it to where I set at least 20 to 30 minutes a day aside to getting my own little workout here at the comforts of my own home, to where I can achieve my level of fitness and bring new life of great fitness within myself. So if I can do it, I'm challenging y'all to do it. If you don't have time to go work out at a gym, get some workout equipment like at Walmart Academy or something, and start your own home gym and come up with a plan and then bring in new life with great fitness within yourself. You will reap the benefits down the road for sure. And it's crazy because when working out at home, there shouldn't be no excuses, there shouldn't be no issues, and you shouldn't even really be complaining about space when it comes to working out. You can work out in your garage. You can dedicate a special room in the house towards it. There's no excuses to bringing in new life with great fitness when you can just use like a weight bench and dumbbells and some resistant bands and get you a pull-up bar and some push-up stands. All that is maybe basic stuff is like less than, I don't know, $100, and you got yourself a nice little home gym you could start bringing in new life with great fitness with at the end of the day. Because at the Because overall, that's what HFWB is all about. That's one of the goals of HFWB, which is to bring in new life with great fitness. I want y'all to remember that. Just like I want y'all to remember that, like I've said a couple of episodes back, you are what you eat. You should eat to live and not live to eat. Because fat doesn't make you fat, sugar does. I want y'all to remember that from a couple of episodes back, and I want y'all to retrain those taste buds and continue to realize that we need to get back to eating whole, natural, and delicious foods. We need to revolutionize our kitchen. We need to break these food addictions that we grew up on as little kids, as far as being overwhelmed in great heaps of cheap, sweet, greasy, chemically processed, flavored, enhanced, genetically modified food that we grew up on, like the McDonald's of the world, for example. And it's kind of like I mentioned a couple of episodes back of the HFWB podcast. It's like the food is the science project and we are the guinea pigs, right? So all these types of bad food that's filled with all these sugars and artificial sweeteners and chemicals and all that stuff, they've hijacked our brain in ways that resembles addiction, kind of like how a fiend is to cocaine and heroin, for instance. If we can cut back on that and retrain our taste buds and, get out of those bad food addictions overall within itself with a great revolution of our kitchen, all it takes is really just 21 days to form a new habit of breaking all those bad addictions, and we can get ourselves on the right track as far as having better nutrition to where we can have the strength to overall perform these workouts. And it's crazy too. I'm not trying to make this completely stressful at all, because we deal with enough stress as it is on an everyday basis, because overall we deal with, like, as far as old folks, for instance, they deal with the fact that they have to keep their blood pressure at a particular level, and blood pressure is a real thing. There's a lot of people who have had major health issues just off of blood pressure issues within itself. But have no fear, there's a couple of foods that I myself personally like to grub on that I really didn't even know that can help lower your blood pressure all at the same time. You got your low-fat yogurts of the world, to where it's like a great source of calcium, which is one of the main compounds to help fight high blood pressure, ironically enough. All you need is really a 12-ounce serving that will give you like 30% of recommended amount per day with just low-fat yogurt. And that's a major key as far as within all of the smoothies I like to make on a regular basis, which I might break down one of the recipes that has me going as far as a good little smoothie down the road. So be on the lookout for that in a future episode of the HFWB podcast. You got your bananas of the world, which is rich in potassium, packing up 420 milligrams, which is 9% of recommended daily intake. It's rich in fiber. It lends natural sweeteners to smoothies, like I just mentioned, baked goods, frozen treats. You obviously heard of like your banana breads and your banana puddings of the world. I mean, you can't go wrong with having a banana. I mean, it's good in potassium, fiber, and it could lower your blood pressure. So remember that, y'all, the next time you eat a banana. And then, favorite thing I like to do, especially every morning when I have to go to work, I like to snack on a handful of blueberries, because it contains nitric oxide, which is a gas that helps increase blood flow, thus lowering blood pressure, ironically enough. So a March 2015 study by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics found that even less than an ounce of blueberries, for example, just a less of an ounce of blueberries a day, can help significantly lower blood pressure, for instance. You could add it to your oatmeal, for example, add it to your salad for lunch, make it for a dessert for dinner, after dinner one day, for instance, because a handful of blueberries has a little bit of vitamin C in it, and it can help lower your blood pressure in the process. It's all about increasing your muscle to build your hustle, like I always say at the end of the day, when it comes to achieving maximum health and maximum great fitness within itself. And speaking of increasing your hustle, it's funny, I was looking at this overall when I was checking the stock market earlier. It's funny that I wanted to break down the history of like stock market crashes, and here I am looking at the stock market numbers. For those who are watching, this is basically what the stock market is looking like right now at the moment. If you're watching the video right now on YouTube, the stock market's all in the red. You know, you got your Dow, it's at 34,584. You got the SP 500, that's at 4,432. Then you got the NASDAQ, that's in the red, a little over 15,000 barely as far as overall points and everything. It doesn't surprise me that the stock market is low, which is why I always say we got to be prepared when the market goes down, because overall, you know, it's not such really a bad thing. I mean, you could look at a crash as a bad thing, but it really isn't. But for those who don't really understand the impact of what a stock market crash really has on society, just look at what just happened last year with the coronavirus stock market crash of 2020. It was during, like, y'all remember, like, the week of February 24th, 2020, when the Dow and the SP 500, it literally tumbled 11% and 12%, respectively, marking the biggest weekly declines to occur since the financial crisis of 2008. The Dow will go on to decline by 9.99% on March the 12th, the largest one-day drop since Black Monday of 1987, which I'll explain on a later episode of the podcast, followed by an even deeper plunge of 12.9% on March the 16th. So regardless, things could be a whole lot worse as far as stock market crashing and stock market prices falling currently at the moment. It could be a whole lot worse because, hey, the stock market eventually will rebound, right? Just like it rebounded back to pre-pandemic peak by May of 2020 with the whole COVID-19 crash that just happened last year. The rapid recovery obviously was thanks to the enormous amount of stimulus money, Federal Reserve slashing interest rates, and then they injected $1.5 trillion into money markets, and Congress passed that $2.2 trillion aid package at the end of March of last year. We all remember that, how we got those stimulus checks. And I'll admit I'm guilty for taking advantage of a couple of stimulus checks, but unlike most people, I used it to create more assets versus creating more liabilities. Because remember, like I said in the first couple of episodes of the HFWB podcast, an asset will put money into your pocket, a liability will take money out of your pocket. So make sure you're creating more assets and cutting down on those liabilities and expenses. That's the name of the game when it comes to cash flow. Just a little friendly reminder there. But overall, when it comes to like the history of like stock market crashes and stuff like that, let me break down 2 stock market crashes real quick here before I start to wrap things up here. The first stock market crash that took place, where it just affected the U.S. alone, was the Panic of 1792. It was a financial credit crisis occurring during the month of March and April of 1792. It participated basically by the expansion of credit by the newly formed Bank of the U.S., as well as the rampant speculation on part of prominent bankers at the time, like William Duer, who was a congressman at the time, and then some guy named Alexander Macomb, who was some sort of fur trader and merchant. But anyways, basically bankers like them, they attempted to drive up the prices, and eventually they attempted to drive up the prices of U.S. debt securities and bank stocks, but eventually they were defaulted, as in other words, they missed payments on loans that they borrowed themselves, and it led to the prices falling because people who had their money in the banks began to withdraw money out of the banks in fear of the banks basically seizing all the money that's in the banks and ceasing to function as an overall institution in the first place. So as in other words, stock market crashes usually tend to occur when people who have a lot of money and who have a lot of power, they want to run up the prices of stocks and bonds to the point to where they they request ridiculous amounts of money as far as a IOU type of deal, and then they default on it, as in other words, they forget to make a payment on the loan that they created. Next thing you know, everything's falling and tumbling, and next thing you know, you got Chicken Little somewhere screaming, oh, the sky is falling, and all that kind of stuff. But luckily, there was Alexander Hamilton, who managed the crisis by providing banks with hundreds of thousands of dollars to make open market purchases of securities, which stabilized the market by May of 1972. So kind of like what went on recently last year with the COVID-19 crash, bringing everything down, and then you got Congress and the Feds injecting trillions and trillions of dollars into the markets to get everything back up and running. They were kind of doing the same thing in the late 1700s going into the 1800s, and I'm sure even going into the 1900s, which brings me into one of the more popular crashes that took place, which was the Panic of 1907. And there are so many major keys that took place within this Panic of 1907 that a lot of people actually sleep on. And I'm going to go over this here in my notes real quick. The Panic of 1907, for those who don't know, it was a short-lived banking and financial crisis in the U.S. It was caused by an excessive speculative investment driven by loose monetary policy. Basically, what monetary policy is, it's basically the supply of money in a country and an economy and how it's controlled and how it's being spent, all that good stuff. But anyways, it basically channeled all that as far as the loose monetary policy. It took advantage of the control of the quantity of money available in an economy and channels by which new money is supplied in the first place. It basically, the whole purpose of the Panic of 1907, it exposed the National Banking Act of 1863 and 1864, which basically shaped how most U.S. banks and all across the country tend to operate as far as their national banking system, and it supported an overall uniform of U.S. banking policy to begin with. Now, at the time, keep in mind, there was no central bank by the government to fall back on, so basically the U.S. financial markets were bailed out from the crisis by personal funds and guarantees from top financiers and investors like J.P. Morgan and John D. Rockefeller. And it's funny because John D. Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan, most people like to accuse them from being part of all these secret societies that control as far as the money within itself. And it's kind of ironic, too, because at the time, they controlled all the money, in which they had the most money available, to where they bailed basically the country and the government and the economy out at the time from going into a Great Depression before the original Great Depression even happened. So if anything, we should be praising these people like the John D. Rockefellers and the J.P. Morgans of the world, because they understand what makes America prosper at the end of the day. And believe it or not, for those who don't know this really isn't that much of a surprise. If you don't understand the definition of how capitalism works, I don't know what to tell you. But as far as those who don't, I'm going to break down how capitalism makes America prosperous in another episode down the road in the HFWB podcast, so be on the lookout for that. So just know that capitalism is pretty much what saved the Panic of 1907 from creating the first big, real Great Depression before the original Great Depression of 1929 happened, ironically enough. And it's crazy because the Panic of 1907 led to more government oversight and public responsibility to bail out financial markets, leading to the creation of the Federal Reserve a few years later. And obviously, like I've said in a few episodes back of the HFWB podcast, the Fed has three purposes. It's basically a lender of last resort, as in other words, they're supposed to boost money into the economy when all else fails, kind of like how it did last year when the COVID-19 basically destroyed the economy and the stock market within itself. The Fed had to inject trillions of dollars into banks, and the Congress had to inject trillions of dollars into the economy, into the stock market and all that stuff to kind of get everything back afloat to pre-pandemic numbers, like I mentioned a little bit ago. It also serves as a physical agent for the U.S. government, as in other words, the Fed is basically the bank or a trust company performing financial duties, handling money for our wonderful government, and it acts as a cleaning house. But it's funny that the Fed isn't really doing much of that anymore. As a matter of fact, the Fed is basically resorting to its old dirty tricks of basically just, they're printing trillions and trillions of dollars, and yes, it may be working, but at the same time, who's going to pay back all these trillions and trillions of dollars that the Fed is throwing into the stock market, into the economy, and all that? Because it's creating a whole bunch of debt. It's like the government is literally swiping a credit card and forgetting the fact that they have to make a payment on that credit card that they're swiping, as far as to boost the economy and boost the stock market and boost the banks in order to keep inflation at a low. Because yes, the value of the dollar is dying. Yes, the cost of living is going up. And yes, injecting money into the economy as far as trillions and trillions of dollars is a good short-term solution, but at the same time, let's be clear, it's turning into a long-term problem down the road. So I want y'all to let that sink in and keep that on y'all's mind next time y'all look at a stimulus check coming your way, or next time you look at the Feds doing some sort of quantitative easing, which is printing money to basically keep the economy afloat. I want y'all to remember that the next time y'all hear news and updates about all this going on, because I'm breaking it down, and I'm going to continue to break it down in future episodes of the HFWB podcast. I want to wrap it up with just a couple of more things here when I say, of course, the cryptocurrency world has a lot going on right now, and as a matter of fact, I almost forgot to check the cryptocurrency going on as we speak. You got your Bitcoin, for those who are watching, I'm checking it right now. Y'all could see my Coinbase app. I'm looking at all the latest cryptocurrency numbers. Bitcoin is down to 47,135. Ethereum's down to $3,385.89. Solana's down to $141.55. Let me check out what's going on here as far as the latest numbers here. You got a lot going on in the cryptocurrency world, as a matter of fact. I saw a couple of days ago, actually yesterday, that there's a new music service or driven music streaming service called Audius that's aiming to offer like a hybrid of streaming, migrant, Spotify type platform, and it's a sharing platform, obviously like Spotify, where you could stream music off of it. And ironically enough, it's risen in recent months because of integration with TikTok and other NFT features. Remember how I told you last week that NFT is growing and it's going to dominate blockchain and all that, and the way you get more access to blockchain features in the cryptocurrency world, buy more Ethereum and stuff like that. You got celebrities, celebrity musicians like Katy Perry, Nas, Pusha T, Steve Aoki, Jason Derulo. Those are just to name a few people who have invested into this music service called Audius. And this is something that I'm definitely going to look into as well, because if they have a cryptocurrency token, I might buy a little bit of stock into that and see how much money can be generated off of that. Name of the game is cash flow, remember, don't forget. And overall, it's raised about $5 million in new funding, which is pretty good. It was founded on Ethereum via a side chain called POA Network. It also recently implemented blockchain network on Solana as well. So this crypto music streaming service called Audius, be on the lookout for it down the road, y'all, because it could be the next Spotify, it could be the next Pandora, it could be the next Apple Music, all that stuff in one. It can be basically the cryptocurrency version of streaming music for all we know, and it could be the next big thing. So don't forget about that crypto-driven music service called Audius, AUDIUS. Remember that, let that sink in, and stay tuned for more updates on that, because that could be the next big thing I'm giving y'all a heads up on. Now, one more quick thing I want to mention is overall, as I begin to wrap things up here, we all need to remember, most importantly, we need to remain humble overall within itself, because early pride is very dangerous. Because you know how they say that Christians believe that pride is a sin because it is a lie, and it convinces people that they are better than they are, they are better than what God made them. It blunts the very instrument we need to own in order to succeed, which is our ability to learn, our ability to adapt, our ability to be flexible, and most importantly, our ability to build relationships. Pride and ego, it says things like, I'm rich because I made some money, or I'm special because I was chosen, I'm important because I think I should be, or this is for all my entrepreneur friends out there, I'm an entrepreneur because I struck out on my own. I will personally admit, and I'm guilty and I'm ashamed for saying this, I've admitted to saying all these things at one point, or at least in some form or fashion. And it's like, I need to remind myself, and I'm challenging y'all to remind yourselves of this as well, that the way to cook an animal is to catch the animal first, right? Don't cook the sauce before catching the fish, for all my people who love fishing. And for those who are into nature and who are into farms and all that, I'm sure y'all have heard this time and time again. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. And I'm going to end episode 13 of the HFWB podcast by letting this one last note sink in. Don't boast about what hasn't happened yet. Remain humble and take it slow, and things will come together slowly but surely. I'm going to say that one more time. Don't boast about what hasn't happened yet. So that's how I'm going to end episode 13 of the HFWB podcast. I thank y'all once again for tuning in. And for those who are watching right now on YouTube, make sure y'all subscribe to the YouTube channel for Health, Fitness, Wealth, Business. As y'all can see, I'm rocking my HFWB shirt here. Y'all can check it out here on the logo. Sorry, I'm sorry, y'all. Messing up a little bit. For those who are interested in a white HFWB shirt or a black HFWB shirt, y'all hit me up. Your boys officially created a Cash App now. It's $CPHFWB for all my Cash App users. Y'all hit me up from one of these HFWB shirts. They're going for $6 a piece. Let me know your size and I got you. I can do a drop off. Just send me the money via Cash App at CPHFWB, the official Cash App for Health, Fitness, Wealth, Business. Make sure y'all check out the website for the latest news and updates, healthfitnesswealthbusiness.com/CP. Y'all continue to download and stream every single episode of the HFWB podcast, now available on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Make sure y'all follow at Hfwb, the official TikTok page for Health, Fitness, Wealth, Business. And overall, the HFWB quadrant is slowly on its way, so be on the lookout for that. It's about 40% completed. It should be out sometime next month. HFWB Quadrant, Forgotten or Misunderstood, the first ebook for HFWB. It should be out sometime in late October, early November. Sorry for the wait on that. Just got to make sure it's nice and perfect. About 40% complete. And overall, I thank y'all once again for tuning in to another episode of the HFWB podcast. And also one more quick thing, be on the lookout for the September edition of the HFWB newsletter. It should be out by the end of this week. Other than that, like always, y'all, stay healthy, stay wealthy, stay blessed, and have yourselves a wonderful feel-good Friday, everybody.